we really strongly believe in the power of digital solutions, and as well mixing that with my own strength and being able to just talk with people, relate with people, and really sit down and just strategize with them. And this has been tremendous for us. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I do well. So for every decision I make, I consult God. It's really like, Lord, this is for you. This is your business. The mission of our company is literally to be the entrepreneur's best friend. We want to be there to help the other business owners achieve their dreams as well. I chose to, you know what? Let me rebuild. Let me take care of what I take care of. And let me take the lessons I learned and apply it towards this next venture.
Hello and welcome to my Business Story Podcast. I'm Johnny Perez, and joining me today is Sergio Bran. Hello, Sergio.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing?
Cool. All right, so he's an author, business owner at Scepter. He works with small business owners to help them get digital strategies so they could get business in 30 days. So it's sounds like a really interesting type of business. I think if you're a business owner, you would want to get your hands on uh, Sergio and his team. So thank you again, Sergio, for being part of this podcast. So in your own words, explain your business and what you do in your business.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is I meet with small businesses and founders, be it in e-commerce, media, finance, contractors, right? But I really sit down and I formulate a strategy with them to one where they want to be positioned, right? There's a difference between a strategy and a plan. We make the strategy is the outcome, the plan is how you get there. So a lot of people are so busy building plans on how to get somewhere, right? But they don't really know the outcome they want. So we originally say, where do you want to be positioned in the market? Do you simply want to be known as the substitute for this guy, or do you want to be X, Y, and Z? So we work that with them, and almost basically 9 times out of 10, it makes the plan really clear. Then we'll say, this is what we're gonna do. This is our go-to market strategy, and in 30 days, if we haven't gotten you these results, you get your money back. Um, that's just how confident we are in our strategy to help small business owners really just launch and start making revenue.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just because I know that for small business owners, me having basically, been one, I realize just that there's so many gurus out there. There's so many people that promise so much. Will charge you $10 billion plus your less kidney, and there's no guarantee at all.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, let me be here really for the small business owners. Let me actually be there for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds very promising. Um, and so taking you back a little bit from the the beginning stages of Scepter, uh, what got you started in your business?
Dude, I was in banking. So I had been in banking ever since I got out of high school back in 2018. And, I love the idea of serving people,
Mm.
but I did not like how regulated the world of finance is. If anyone here is working in finance, you know that there's rules for literally every single thing. You can't say this, you have to say this, you can't say that, all these things, right? I was like, I want to be in a space where I can be more creative and serve people in the way that I know the Lord has blessed me to with creativity. So I got into marketing, and this isn't even my first venture. I had my first venture back when I was in college, and I was really great at everything when it came to talking with people, doing all the graphics, setting up the socials, all that.
Yeah.
But I really struggled and suffered with revenue.
Mhm.
And it was because, again, of what I talked with, we make so many plans, but we don't really have a strategy. I was just going out there and be like, do as much as I can, do as much busy work. And it didn't really bear me any fruit. That venture didn't really last.
Mhm.
So I started Scepter now, right, with a partner.
Mhm.
And we really strongly believe in the power of digital solutions,
Mhm.
and as well mixing that with my own strength and being able to just talk with people, relate with people, and really sit down and just strategize with them. and this has been tremendous for us. Um, and we're so happy with the results we get. People, it's been amazing. So I started that way. We incorporated almost a bit over a year ago, April 29th of 2024, and it's been an amazing journey since then.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. And what was the sort of spark that made you take the leap into entrepreneur and to be an entrepreneur from banking and then into let me start working for myself. What was that like for you?
Yeah. Um, so it's funny. Like I said, we incorporated in April 29th. I didn't really make the leap to be in it full time till October. And in the middle of that time, the entire time, I just kept on thinking, I want to do this. I want to do this. But I just come from a background where the mentality in our family is really just they value stability over the freedom. That's not wrong. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I know what I want, my goals are, right? I'm okay with taking a risk and taking a leap to chase a goal, which he's been that I know God had placed in me. Um, to and just to have that faith. But I remember how scary it was. I had been contemplating for a long time, and every day at work, I would just be miserable almost like that I need to be doing what my dream full time. So I remember it was a Monday night in early October or last week of September, whatever it was. And it was we were at Forge Men's Group at Vertical Church in West Haven, and they were talking about this guy was literally talking about how he took a whole day off just to fast and pray. And he asked God, he wrote down all his questions and he asked God. And in that day of fasting, the Lord answered everything for him. And I felt led to probably do the same thing. So I took the day off work the next day, which I never do. That's just not my work ethic. I don't like to take days off of work.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to do this. So I wrote down all my questions like, God, should I quit? Should I do this? What's the plan? All this stuff. I wrote down everything. And I fasted that whole day. And that whole day I got the answers I needed.
Mhm.
I told the Lord said, I need to quit. So I went into work the next day and I actually typed out my resignation letter, and I was still kind of
Mhm.
I said, you know what, Lord, if my boss comes in and he asks me this exact phrase, what will your future be with Wells Fargo? But that was the company I was with.
Mhm.
I know that this is what you want me to do because I never get asked that question. They don't really ask the question. There's at least not verbatim like that.
Yeah.
So I left the letter in my bag, and 15 minutes later, my boss comes in. He's all like, "So what will your future be with Wells Fargo?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "Wow." So I hand him the letter, and I'm expecting them to be livid, and he's all like, "Dude, this is great, awesome, you gotta come do it." And oh
Wow.
wow. So they let me work my 2 weeks, my
Mhm.
final 2 weeks. And that was it. I was off to the races.
Clean cut.
And man, it was really just the Lord that set that up for me.
Yeah.
So the spark was always there. I always wanted to do it. And we were always working in the business after work hours, but I was like, no, I needed to make that leap. And the Lord opened that way for me.
Yeah.
Not
That's awesome. And how much does your relationship with God have to do with, how you operate a business? Like, there's a term that I've heard is called a kingdom business or kingdom mindset about things. Is that something that you try to implement in your business?
absolutely. Yeah. So um how do I phrase this? It's sometimes, especially within, like, the Christian community, right? We tend to have this weird relationship with money. Like, we're gonna be like, "Oh, I get too much money. It means, like, I'm being greedy or whatever."
Mhm.
Um, but, the Bible actually shows that whoever multiplies gets more. I always remember the gift of the story of the talents where they were all given the same amount, and some people want to multiply and other people just buried it in the sand.
Mhm.
And I told myself, I told the Lord, Lord, I want to multiply in this business for your kingdom. And I want to make sure that whatever I'm given, I do well.
Mhm.
So for every decision I make, I'll consult God.
Mhm.
It's really like, Lord, this is for you. This is your business. This is the mission of our company is literally to be the entrepreneur's best friend. We want to be there to help the other business owners achieve their dreams as well. So I'm like, Lord, I know this is something that matters to you. I know that all these other entrepreneurs, you love them, whether or not they're saved,
Yeah.
but I know you love these people. So let me do this work as though it's for you.
Mhm.
So, and that has helped me so much tremendously in the sense of, man, sometimes I don't even know how I'm still doing it. I remember I have a bit of a testimony of, man, I used to be a really big quitter. I
Mhm.
used to just not, if it was hard, I'd walk away.
Mhm.
This is so bad to admit.
Mhm.
But even in the hard moments in this business, I remind myself, Lord, you're good. This is what you want for me to do. Keep me going. And
Mhm.
it's being so hugging God so tightly in the mission that has kept the business not just going, but now about to start hiring soon.
Yeah.
So God is good.
Yeah. Mm. Uh, all the time. And, I know this personally of you, but, do you feel taking those leaps of faith in business and in your personal life, um, got you I see you're engaged or married?
Engaged.
Yeah.
Married in 40 days. I think literally,
Mm.
what's today's date?
That
The
maybe
11th? The 12th? Then I think almost exactly 40 days. Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. Do you feel I think did you start your business before you popped the question, or was it after?
Oh, I started the business way before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started the business April 2024. I asked her to marry me December 2024.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask that is that sometimes it becomes a domino effect of like, huh, if this business is going well, it gives me the room to pop the question to the love of my life and have a kind of plan, so to speak, of this business is going to be able to supply for us financially, and then to grow, and then it just gets you into a place where if God could do this, then He could definitely bless us in this marriage with with this woman. She says yes, so she said yes. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, God has been, there's been so many miracles throughout the
Yeah,
events in our personal life. God has been
yeah,
so big just because we're obeying him.
yeah,
So
yeah. I can see that. And then what we're talking about the business, the climb in the early days. Where were some of the biggest challenges you faced early on?
yeah, the biggest challenge that I faced early on was having to come to terms with a really valuable lesson that I didn't like in the moment. And it was God was teaching me, you need to be able to make something out of nothing.
Mm,
I remember I did not say this originally when I made the leap. When I made the leap, I had $3 in my bank account.
mm,
I was like, God, I wanted to do everything and we wanted to do it,
mhm,
but that's why I struggled with so much. So me making the decision, I'm like, yo, by all means, this is a stupid decision. Probably
mhm,
this is not wise at all. But Lord was like, no, you have some faith. And with nothing,
mhm,
we bootstrapped to get a whole software made. It's called PushStar. That's one of our flagship products.
mhm,
We've made so PushStar is a push notification system that helps a lot of small businesses, especially e-commerce. They recover abandoned carts. So when someone goes in, they
mhm,
try to buy, they walk away, or remind them, hey, come back, right?
mhm,
So very simple, but we did that with little to no resources.
mhm,
I remember I got my partner on board, Holiday, with little to no resources. I just took him to Texas Roadhouse. I told him the vision. He was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
mhm,
Um, and it was this constant having to how to navigate and to be super resourceful with the little that's there and to trust God to multiply it. That I, it was a tough season.
yeah,
Every single moment required faith. Every single moment required me to just be all like, God, like, why am I doing this? You know, you're having me help other people expand and do great, but here I am, you know? And the Lord was just telling me, because you're gonna have to do this for other people.
mhm,
If you can't do it for yourself, how can you do it for others? If
mhm,
you can't take something, if you can't build something from nothing with your own resources, how can other people trust to be the same?
yeah,
So I was like, wow. So, and then eventually we started getting a lot more revenue and clientele around March.
mhm,
And so from October to March, right? You can imagine
Mhm.
just having it with having started with $3, I had to trust in God in everything.
Yeah.
And now March, April, now we're onboarding contractors, and now we're onboarding finance people, now we're onboarding. Right now, I literally before this, I just got off the phone with an e-commerce guy. He
Mhm.
has a clothing brand, and it's just so amazing how just because of the faithfulness and the obedience, the story
Mhm.
slipped that and now
Yeah.
off.
Is it the one that we know?
Um,
A different guy.
a certain guy, a clothing brand. We know a lot of people.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
no, his name is Jeremy.
Okay.
He's really
Yeah.
cool. He has.
Yeah, the one we know.
So yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about to launch a whole campaign for him,
Yeah.
so that way he can start building his business back up. He basically
Yeah.
dropped it for like 5 years,
Mhm.
and like, nah, dude, like this is what the Lord has for you. Let's get it back
Mhm.
up. So we're really excited for what God is doing there.
Yeah. And then just sort of, backtrack a little bit, how long have you been in business?
How long have I been in business?
Yeah.
So you mean like for this business specifically, or just in general? Let's
In
clarify
general.
this. In general, yeah. In general, I had my first venture in 2022, January 2022.
Mhm.
My first venture, I didn't understand what it meant to put things in the proper place.
Mhm.
What I mean by that was I was terrible at saying no to certain things.
Mm.
And I was really bad at not overextending myself. I was a full-time student in college. I was an insurance agent, full-time insurance agent. I was a chaplain in a fraternity.
Mm.
Um, and I was serving at, well, I wouldn't serve. I would just go to church.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was in Tennessee at the time. I barely slept. And the thing is, if I have, like, my 1 or 2 all-nighters, that's fine,
Mm.
but the 3rd day, it's always that 3rd day, my body comes back and demands.
Yeah.
So, I would, like, go, like, 36 hours, 40 hours awake, and then just sleep for, like, 16 hours the
Ooh.
next day.
Yeah. It's not healthy.
And it wasn't healthy at all, and because I didn't take care of my mental state,
Yeah.
I ended up going to a hospital for,
Mhm.
like, 60 days.
Wow.
It took me out of college, and since I was a solopreneur, 60 days MIA
Yeah.
practically close your business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So when I got out, I lost everything. I wasn't in college anymore
Mhm.
because that's practically the whole semester.
Mhm.
All the business people had up and left.
Yeah.
Um, and I just had to come back home and just rebuild.
Mhm.
Um, but I took the lessons, and I think this is what makes any entrepreneur great is being able to use failure as fertilizer. You can
Oh,
either look at failure as this is the end of everything, like this meant it'll never work out, or you could look at it as I've learned everything I need to learn to go to the next step.
mhm.
And I chose the latter. I
Yeah.
chose to, you know what? Let me rebuild. Let me take care of what I take care of, and let me take the lessons I learned
Mhm.
and apply it towards this next venture.
That's awesome. You chose the grind to
Did
go
for
through
sure.
that. That's good. Was there ever a moment where you wanted to quit, or and what? And if so, what kept you going? And whichever, the first one, or the one you're working on right now.
Um, the first one, I don't think I really wanted to quit until it would at everything I'd really failed on that one already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this one I probably wanted to quit a lot.
Mhm.
And I think the reason why I wanted to quit so much was just because I would remember how this is something I've had to even go to therapy for,
Mhm.
is I would always feel that everything I put my mind to doesn't work.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember because I obviously the first venture didn't work, college didn't really work.
Yeah.
And I had taken on this identity that the enemy had tried to place over me that that I myself was a failure.
Mhm.
And I had to really get out of that. And I had to really learn. One of the biggest failures I had on my first venture was I was so in the mentality of the business that I didn't take care of my spiritual self. I didn't take care of my mentality. And in this business, I've had to learn. it's okay to sacrifice 1 hour in the morning to pray and read your word. So
Yeah.
that way the rest of the day, you're in a good mental space, you're in a good
Mm,
spiritual space to think clearly and make good decisions.
yeah.
And I had to learn I can't neglect myself. You can't put your business over your own relationship with the Lord.
Mhm.
So in those moments where I felt like I'm quitting, that was my sign of I'm putting this over God. I need to
Mhm.
spend some more time with the Father. And I would just drop what I'm doing and I would just pray. I'd read my word. I'd put on some worship music. In those moments, the Lord would refresh me and rejuvenate me. And whatever decision I was struggling with in that moment, get the clarity right then and there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I can definitely sense that you're uh, connected to, I guess, a clear sense of what the Lord wants you to do in business, and it's sort of that. I believe it sort of stems from that intimacy, where He says go, you go. When He says stop, you stop, and I think that's very beneficial in business, especially because you could get in business with so many people that they want to destroy you. And if you're or if they have bad intentions rather as well. But if you don't have a clear sense of um uh the leading, there's a term that's called leading of the Holy Spirit, where the Holy Spirit, third person of the Trinity, that speaks to your heart. And if you don't know what he's saying, then you'll probably fall into trap and then next trap and the next trap. And then all of a sudden you don't have a business, and worse off, your family starts going into decay because you weren't listening properly. Um, and so, sort of talking on that, um, do you have any mentors, or were you part of a community that sort of helped you to and supported you along the way?
Yes, of course. I still have my mentor overall. His name is Nate. Love him. I actually about to talk with him this Saturday. We're going to go to the gym together. The mentorship is a bit absolutely integral. I actually spoke about this on my own podcast. I featured him on my podcast, and
Which
which is
podcast?
the Surge podcast, but spelled SERG. So the SERG Surge podcast.
Awesome.
So we spoke about it together, and he also spoke about how to approach mentorship, and he says, when you choose mentors based off people who are somewhere where you're not yet,
Mm,
or that they've achieved something that you haven't been able to achieve yet.
mm,
And he's somewhere where I aspire to get where he's at in practically every area. But then there's also mentors for he's my general life mentor, but
mm,
then there's mentorship for the specific areas of your life. For example, I had two mentors that really or specifically just into my relationship with my fiance.
mm,
I have a business mentor who really just teaches me how to sell.
mm,
uh, Said that that's a weak area of mine. What's crazy is that I don't like something because even if it's like the number one product on earth. Oh, sorry, I'm getting that right. Even if it's the number one product on earth, I feel like I'm being sleazy. It's just this
mm,
weird like
mm,
concept, right? I feel to ask for someone for money. I feel like I'm asking for money, even though no, I'm not. I'm giving a trade off. So he's had to help me
yeah,
work through that.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and so I have different people for different areas of my life. And having that mentorship, it really when you're really struggling and you're really like, I don't know what to do. These are people that have been there and they got out and they made it through. So I make sure to stay humble with them and I'll
Yeah.
be honest with them. I'll tell them, yeah, this is how it is. And then they're able to accurately help me. And on the other side, right, just general community and friends, those are the people that remind you that you're loved, that you do have purpose, that they appreciate what you're doing.
Mm,
And I believe that there's this good balance between mentorship, where they give you that practical help, in
mhm,
the community, where it gives you that sense of belonging and that sense of even if your business were to fail, you still belong. You
yeah.
still that your community is there to remind you that you are not your business. You're not what you do. I'm Sergio Bran. I'm not Scepter. Yes, I'm the owner of Scepter, but that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So those 2 things go hand in hand really well to make sure that I'm a well-rounded person and that I
Mm,
attack things and do tasks from a place of the Lord has made me the head, not the tail.
Mm, that's good. I could definitely see, your mentor speak through you, uh, from what you're talking about. It's really good. And um how do you keep things going when the hype sort of wore off?
Yeah. So this is probably the biggest question that so many people have, right? Is how do you stay motivated?
Mhm,
Or even right when I would look at because I'm about to hire some salespeople,
mhm,
and I made sure that in my description I did not put the word motivated.
mhm,
Motivation comes and goes. Motivation's overrated. Motivation is at the end of the day just an emotion. You feel the high, you feel the hype, feel great, and then all of a sudden, boom, you don't feel that anymore. So the difference between the people that have long lasting success are the people that sorry, the difference between people that have long lasting success and the people that are unsuccessful.
mhm,
Unsuccessful people try to stay motivated. Successful people stay disciplined.
mhm,
It's be having to build those habits that regardless of how you feel, you still do them anyway.
mhm,
And for example, now for me, it's a habit to read my Bible every day, 4 chapters a day. I feel it's become such an ingrained habit that no matter what is going on that day, I feel like I have to do it.
mhm,
Like I have to. So when you build discipline to that level of consistently doing the same things over and over again, showing in and showing out, at first it's hard, but then it pays dividends when you just feel like you have to do it.
mhm,
So that's what lasts. Discipline, habits, that lasts. In the middle of fire, storms, everything. In the middle of, I don't know, like you can't pay your bills or something.
mhm.
That's what lasts. So I stopped trying to chase an emotional need versus I need to build good habits.
Yeah. And how did, your business, the growing in success and growing in, you know, every step that you take brings you somewhere, you know?
Mm.
Um, and how did all those steps that you took in business change your personal life to where you are right now?
Yeah. I remember so when I had proposed to Jaylene at the end of December, I had gotten desperate.
Mhm,
And what I meant by desperate was remember how I said I started really this started really growing more in March. At
mhm,
that time I still wasn't really seeing anything.
mhm,
So I got desperate and I just took a random job.
mhm,
It just looked good, looked promising, right? And at first it was all right, but I was literally working from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
mhm,
Monday through Saturday.
oof,
Um, and I wouldn't have time for church. I was
mhm,
putting I knew I had made that commitment to serve, but I was putting it off. And I was like, this isn't right. This isn't God. And I had to learn through business, right? Through the professional place that in those moments of desperation, you can't think desperately.
mhm,
It is when you are in a desperate situation that is the most crucial time where you can't have a desperate mentality. You need to still be disciplined and really focus and just hug God, but cling to God. I
mhm,
always remember of this, it was a science experiment done way back when where, it was like this monkey, and it was they showed us something where it was really afraid, and it would just run to this little figure where I felt like this figure was its mother. It would just
mhm,
cling, just cling,
mhm,
and that's how that monkey felt safe, and that's how it always got through every single fear tactic they try to put it through, and that's how we gotta be with God,
mhm,
cling to the Lord. And I made sure to not to protect my mentality. And even when my mentality would go away, I would have steps to bring it back.
mhm,
I would obviously first and foremost pray, but also I would go to the gym. I would make sure I would reevaluate, okay, what am I doing? Am I not sleeping enough? Am I not eating right?
mhm,
Have I spent enough time with my fiance? All these things. So it's not just a matter of protecting your mentality, it's knowing how to get it back because inevitably speaking, you will always lose it eventually.
mhm.
I don't know anyone who has been able to be joyous 24/7 and never lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So having that skill of protecting, also having that skill to recover and be resilient.
yeah.
Really helped.
Wow. So it brings to mind, uh, abiding, abiding with God, in those moments, so that I'm reminded in, I think, John 15, talking about the vine,
Yeah.
and we are the branches and everything. Remember that little the song that we sing in children's school, that He is the vine, we are the vine.
Yeah, I didn't
Uh,
grow up with that. I grew up with Spanish. Esa montaña se moverá. Oh, that's what I grew up with.
yeah, but it's sort of a beautiful picture in how we're all connected, and as long as we're connected to Source, Father God, uh, we're gonna be all right, and it's that point when we disconnect, not just from God, but when we disconnect from other people, we disconnect from mentors or people that want to help us, but they won't know unless we speak up. And that's something I've seen you do a lot in your expressing, and then also talking in personal life. That's really awesome. And how you're able to get that success. Well, rather, this is the fruit of how you're able to get that success, is that you didn't rely on yourself entirely. You relied on what God put inside of you, but then also the mentors, and then also other people that helped you along the way. And that's really awesome. And then talking about that, you talk about habits of reading, and then exercise and everything like that. What other kind of habits, uh, or the hold on, what habits or mindset helped you push through those tough times? Hold on one second. I just wanted to interject here. Thank you so much for watching this podcast. If you have a moment, please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you're watching this or listening to this, so that we can continue to bring these quality business owners telling their stories and bringing you the content that you so crave. Now, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah. Um, I'm a very big visual person, so I'd always like to envision myself in a boxing match. So whenever I feel like I was down, I'd always imagine like, those rocky moments or creative moments where you come back and you just hit that haymaker and you swing and you win. Yeah. All that. And I'm just all like, whenever I'm down, I'm being set up for those moments. So I look at it as, instead of like, this is a moment of defeat, this is a moment of, this is about to be the greatest buzzer beater of all time. So I always look at it in the potential. There's always so much potential for success, even in the middle of these hard times. And habits for me, other habits, you said it yourself, reading, but also every morning I take an hour just learning. I will look up a YouTube video, and I very strictly keep it at an hour, and I'll try to go over, mainly just because the more you try to, it's almost like cramming, right? For studying, if you try to learn so much in a single moment, you're gonna forget most of it. So I just had to take an hour. I'll have some online courses. I'll just go through them, or I'll read, or whatever I really want to learn for an hour. And that keeps my mind sharp. And that keeps me like, "Cool, I have some good food for thought. Let me practice some stuff that I've learned today." Um, and the biggest habit, the biggest habit that I have that helps me in moments that are tough to keep me going. Um, This is gonna sound so stupid, but I go door dashing.
Huh?
I'll go door dashing. Like, I will literally get on my app for DoorDash, and I'll just go deliver orders. And it's not so much for the money, like, yeah, the money's cool, whatever, but like $15 for 30 minutes driving, it's
Gas money.
whatever. That's But it just lets me think.
Mhm.
So prayer is more of that conversation, right? But while I'm DoorDash, I can mainly more meditate. They're two different practices. Pastor Ken at our church, he basically describes it as very easy to tell the difference. One is verbal prayer, and the other one is just purely in your head. It's meditation.
Yeah.
And those are the times where I'm able to just kind of sort things out. So those are my habits for taking care of my mentality. And I think something that I focus on so much is I focused on mentality, because that's really everything as a founder, as an owner. Um, I used to sometimes wonder, right, why does it have to be so hard for founders and owners in the beginning?
Mm,
And it's because, right, think about it if you do reach that success level of where you're the CEO of 10,000 employees, right?
mm,
If you can't handle crisis on your own, why should God trust you to handle crisis when there's 10,000 livelihoods
mm,
that depend on you?
mhm.
So,
It's deep.
so really learning to master your own mind, that's going to be the most important skill for anything
Mhm,
because everything flows from that. Every decision flows from how your mind is, how your spirit is. Um, and where does the wellness of the mind come from? That flows from the secret place. That
mhm,
flows from spending that alone time with God. And this is even seen in the secular world, a bit differently in how we practice it in the faith. But there are CEOs, like I'm pretty sure CEO Delta, Ed Bastian has spoken about this, where he will just go away just to think, like in
mhm,
the middle of so much stuff.
mhm,
There's so many deadlines, so many decisions he has to make,
mhm,
that he still reserves time just for thinking.
mhm.
And it is that habit that everything else flows from.
Yeah.
I can sit down and teach you a million things, a million lessons, a million strategies for marketing, finance, all that. But at the end of the day, your business is your business.
Mhm.
And only you are going to know everything needs to be done specifically for that.
Yeah.
So if there's any one skill you need to learn, it's you need to learn how to build yourself and how to
Mhm.
maintain.
Then even the king of the universe, he went away to have that time of meditation, to talk with the Father, to pray. I'm sure he read the word as well and reciting the word. I mean, he is the word. So, if he had to do it, and even I think King David is a verse that I'm reminded of where he strengthened himself. And he was the greatest king in all of Israel. Um, and he had to learn how to strengthen himself. And so who are we if we have to be able to do that ourselves. And then how has your talking about success, how has your definition of success changed since you started?
Yeah. For me, when I started, my definition of success was, bro, I'm trying to own a skyscraper in New York.
Mm.
Oh, like
That's smart.
this business will have succeeded when I'm in the tallest skyscraper on the top floor in New York
Mm.
City, looking over everyone and be like, "Yo, I run this city." Yeah, well, like that's what I really was like, very greedy, almost materialistic, right?
Mhm.
Um, but the Lord had to break that down.
Mhm.
And he has to keep on reminding me the greatest is the one who serves.
Mm.
And it's remembering ever since I was a kid, I've always really loved serving. I was like 11 years old and I would serve at the soup kitchen where everyone else was probably like 50 or 60 years old in my first church. But I was 11. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't do like the most. I would just probably just pick up the plates whenever people were done eating.
Mm.
But I loved that. I loved hearing people's stories. I loved being able to make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm.
And I had to realize people don't follow you for what you have. People follow you for who you are.
Mhm.
Um, because what you have can be taken away at a single moment. But
Mhm.
who you are is worthy of being a leader, then that can't be taken away from you.
Mhm.
People can beat you. People think about it, what they did to Jesus. They literally beat him to I think even the Passion of the Christ doesn't fully depict how mad it was. That it's still people followed him. People wept as they were renewing and they cared about him and they still followed him after the resurrection. Why? Because of who he is. And so my definition of success had to shift from having a lot to being a lot.
Mhm.
And how do you achieve to be someone greater? You obey the Lord and you serve.
Mhm.
Two things. Learn to obey God, learn to serve, and how to do it, how to do both eagerly. So I made sure um, to whenever I have opportunities to serve, to do it.
Mhm.
That helps me stay humble. And also, when I go on meetings with clients, right, or prospects or leads, I do what's called a free 30-minute strategy session, where for 30 minutes, um, I'm gonna go if you were to not work with me, I'd still tell you how to what the game plan is for you to reach success.
Mm.
But what I do is simply it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
Like everything I taught you is gonna work, but it's gonna take you like extra 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
Where we come in is we'll just do it for you.
Mhm.
So we
Mm.
teach people, if you were to not work with us at all, we'll still give you value. But now is it getting their how? Tell them the what, tell them the why, a little bit of the how, but if you want the how done, that's where you pay.
Yeah.
You know? So so having this mentality of I need to be this person. People don't buy into the product, they buy into you.
Mhm.
So let me stop trying to be this successful millionaire. Let
Mhm.
me be a successful servant.
Mhm.
That has done a lot of wonders for me in my business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever had to shut down something or walk away from a venture? You sort of talked about it before, but has there been anything else?
The first business, yes, but then also for even within this business sector, we spent the first 7 months building towards a whole other project.
Mm.
We were gonna do a really big project management software to the likes of Asana or Monday.com,
Mhm.
like a project management thing. And right when we were about to launch, the software didn't work.
Oh,
And it was a huge issue, and the team was just all like, if we're gonna rebuild it, we might have to start over.
wow.
We don't got time for 7 months, dude. Yeah, I took this whole leap. So me and my partner, we made in and we said, "Yo, what is such a simple need that we can serve, um, that we could build it quick?" So we came up with PushStart.
Mhm.
And now with PushStart, we've been able to see businesses get higher returns on investment. And so
Mhm.
it's a really good marketing tool, and it's also a really good engagement tool.
Mm.
Uh, so Heaven, imagine if I had simply said, "You know what? No, this is the project. This is what it is. We're gonna spend
Yeah.
another 7 months working on it."
Wow.
Oh, we wouldn't even be here right now.
Yeah.
He'd already be under. Scepter would have been bye bye.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've had to pivot.
Mhm.
And this is the number one, I say number one, but this is such an important skill. I can't keep, not everything can be number one, right? So, for such an important skill is the ability
Yeah.
to pivot,
Yeah.
fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of like
That's true.
Amazon, a lot of these big businesses say.
Mhm.
So we had that fail, it didn't work. Then now we have to shift and move, right? Um, this is what makes or breaks businesses is recognizing when whatever your product or your service doesn't fit the market and shift and
Mhm.
move.
Yeah.
Um, business, the market is not personal, right? If you have a product or a service people are not buying, y- either you have to look at a lot, but for the most part, if no one, zero people are buying, it's because it just doesn't fit the market.
Mm.
So we had to shift from this whole thing, and so let's shift to this. And then now, because we've shifted where we are, now people are buying. Now we are buying.
Mhm.
Um, so you need to learn how to strategically walk away. Walking away, people sometimes view it as failure. Sometimes it's a strategic move to go up.
Mhm.
But like, hey, this isn't working. Let me walk away and walk towards. It's not just walking away. You have to walk to. Let me
Yeah.
walk away from the dead thing so I can walk to the place, to the idea, to the service, to the product that'll actually bring life and revenue to my company.
Yeah. There's a term in the film world that's called, "Don't be afraid to kill your baby." Basically, that's not talking about an actual baby.
Yeah.
Talking about
I was like, oh,
it's talking about, your pet project or talking about, like, a particular scene within a movie or a film, that you spent, like, hours or, days or even a year putting together, but if it's not working, you gotta kill it, and to create something that's actually gonna work for the overall film. And there's been things like that you've seen in other movies, like, you know, behind the scenes stories of we spent like a half a year creating this scene and it didn't work for the full film and we had to cut it in order for the film to actually make sense. Um, and so there are times when we do like I didn't know about that. For your business, I knew you were doing that. But it's awesome that you did fall forward and now we're talking about this new business venture. Um, I'm excited for you in that. And
thank you.
there's a lot that you could learn from failure. I've learned for myself in business. I do own this is my podcast, so I could talk about it. So I do own multiple businesses in photography and video industry, and there's failures all the time. But it's through the failures that you actually learn what actually works. Um,
Yeah.
and that's where the market tells you
Yeah.
what works and doesn't work, and you won't know unless you try it. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things I've learned throughout the years is um, it's like when you ask your fiance, like before she was your fiance, you have a percentage in mind, like I'm pretty sure she's gonna say yes. Same for my fiance, my wife rather. Uh, as you grow and learn, once you do the whole ceremony thing, you actually get married, you're gonna learn fast. There's a lot of things that she likes, there's a lot of things she doesn't like,
Mhm.
but you won't know unless you ask, unless you figure those things out for yourselves, and, there's a lot that goes into that, and that's a whole other topic, relationships and marriage. It's like a business, but then it's not like a
Yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Um, but it's not being afraid to risk.
Yeah.
That's you and I, we know a man by the name of Pastor Randall, and he talks about how do you spell faith? RASK.
RISK, yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot of things, not even just in the church life, but in business. There, you need to have faith in yourself, faith in your skills, faith in what you're capable of doing, and then also faith as a believer in God, faith that God is going to help you throughout the process as He gives you the abilities and the skills to be able to not just help yourself to be successful, but to help other people, to give them the product that you're not created to bring to the world, but
yeah.
help to bring into the world to be a help to others, kind of thing. And that's what I believe that's one of the primary reasons why we're here. Yes, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, but also to help other people to be successful themselves. And
Yeah.
as kingdom minded business owners, I think that's one of the things that we need to work towards. You know, bringing uh, bringing into existence businesses that do well profitably, but then also do good for the people as well. And so,
Exactly. Yeah.
mm,
I think that this is the last part. I think that most businesses tend to swing one either way.
mhm,
Either they're making so much money that they're forgetting, the people who got them there, and that's where you
mhm,
get like these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies, but they're paying their employees like 3 cents an hour,
mm,
and then you have the opposite where you have businesses that are so focused on being good
mhm,
that they can't pay their own people.
mm,
Um, and that's where striking that balance goes.
mhm,
I think these are those key tenets where courage comes really into play. Um, courage is the courage is being able to do something you're afraid of it, right? That means that I think one of the biggest issues that us polite or even good or Christian people try to do, I can't say good, there's not one,
no one's good.
no one's good, but for us that try to be ethical, right?
Mhm,
We get so afraid to do something that maybe bends that perception or bends our own way of thinking a little bit. Um, and that's not good. I had someone tell me, he literally had to tell me, "Serge, stop trying to be good. There's no one good. Not one is good.
mhm,
Simply do what you need to do and make sure you're not sinning or going against your ethics. But
mhm,
dude, if you need if you know you can provide this value's worth of service, don't be afraid to ask for the sale.
yeah,
Don't be afraid to close."
mhm,
Um, I was like, "Yeah, you're right." Um, and also don't be afraid back in the earlier thing, don't be afraid to fail because the only real failure in business is quitting.
mhm,
I'll tell a story. One of my mentors, so he had a very similar thing. They were going to do a product launch. He had gone way in, way more than I went. He put $70,000 of his own money towards it.
mhm,
I think he took some loans out to really be able to launch his product,
mhm,
and they set up a whole party. They had like a mayor of a town come in and everything. And when it came, they were literally like 30 minutes away
Mhm.
from starting watching everything. Everyone was already there.
Mhm.
Um, his partner had like taken everything and just dipped.
Oh, no.
So he was practically they were gonna have a whole party for nothing.
Mhm.
Um, and he had to be courageous, stand up on there, tell him this is what happened. This isn't gonna happen. And to his surprise, the people they still cheered.
Mhm.
And he was like, why'd they cheer? And it's because you had the courage to say how it really was.
Yeah.
And of course, there was these said they didn't cheer immediately. There was like this huge like silence at first, and then eventually someone clapped and said, thank you for being honest. And then that's how it
Mhm.
happened. Um, and he could have quit right then and there. He could have said, this isn't worth it. This whole entrepreneurship life isn't worth it. But he kept going. And now he's doing really well. He coaches, he's a coach. So, and he's helped me land so much more business just because of how he's been able to teach me, help me. And he's had other ventures. But and I've also gotten in the room with some pretty wealthy entrepreneurs, and they all say something around very similar is you don't really fail until you quit.
Mhm.
So that's like it's such a simple thing, but that's just something businesses don't. That's what people don't succeed is they quit.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to come alongside of people to help them, keep going, to convince them not to quit, that's a big blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about, you know, we'll talk about fear. So how do you deal with fear, doubt, or burnout?
Fear, doubt, and burnout. Okay. Um, Fear, I remind myself what God has done, and I remind myself of everything that I've already done, and I also remind myself that what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is probably not the worst that can happen.
Mhm.
Um, to be honest,
Yeah.
so many times like we say, "Oh my God, if this happens, the world's gonna blow up," and like I was like, "No, like the world's gonna keep going
Yeah.
down." Doubt, same thing.
Mhm.
Remind yourself what God has done. This is something that was in the Bible where the Lord told Moses, write down everything that has happened and meditate on it day and night and read it to the people often. I don't know the exact read it every
Mhm.
I don't know. I remember it was often, right?
Mhm.
That's how you combat doubt. Is constantly reminding yourself how God has won repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly all these times in the past. And I actually had an episode on this on my podcast on building faith, right? Let's say you're new to the faith, right? And you don't have a wide history of moments, right? Where you can draw from, be like, yo, God won this. God did this. Um, and I always tell those people, I tell myself, but you do have those moments, no. Look at where you're at. Like you could have been born in a war-torn country. You were born here. And I'm not gonna say that we live in the best country on earth, but we definitely live a lot better than other people, you know?
A
Uh,
little better than Iran.
Dude, go on a trip to a third world country and see and tell me you're not blessed. Well,
Mhm.
like, go like there's so much to account for already.
Mhm.
And I remember I had a prayer with a kid. I was at kids' church. And this kid was going in, but it was just like, God, I thank you for this table. I thank you for that pencil. I
Wow.
thank you for that light. And it's so funny, but we have to be like that kid.
Mhm.
When you see how much and when you look in that perspective of gratitude, then you have a lot of these things to draw from to remember what God has done,
Yeah.
right? And then burnout. Burnout, burnout's tough because it's never a quick fix.
Mhm.
Um, Burnout is something that, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you can't really afford, especially in the beginning stages, to
Mhm.
take a 6 month sabbatical. you
Mhm.
know? So that means for that, it's really a rebalancing of your day.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to take almost mini sabbaticals every day while you're still working. So for me, when I face burnout, when I know like I'm at the end of the line, I will invest more instead of an hour learn, instead of 2 hours, I'll just double that time. I might wake up earlier, I might stay up later, but that for me, like for me, what rejuvenates me is being with the Lord in prayer. For me, that is listening to podcasts. For me, that is watching videos and just listening to worship songs. That is just talking with my girl,
Mhm.
you know? And then when the Lord finally gives you that space of take a week or take a few days,
Yeah.
g- take what you need. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to take a break.
Yeah, this weekend, my wife and I, this coming weekend, we're gonna go away on our first ever prayer retreat. So we're just gonna go away for 3 days just to pray, just to we're gonna have like a list of questions to pray into, and then different decisions that we need to make. Nothing too crazy. It's just it's something that I think she heard it from a podcast or listened to someone else. It's like, let's go away for the weekend and pray. I'm like, okay. And that's
No, yeah.
yeah. But it was like she decided like a week ago. I'm like, nothing's open. So I think we're just gonna get an Airbnb or something like that and just go away and pray. And just
Yeah.
to see, you know, what we hear. And I'm expectant and not just to, get answers for our prayers, but also the relationship building of it.
Mm.
Being married for almost 11 years, 11 years this August, and there's a lot of ups and downs that come with marriage and with business, and she recognizes that, and with the business side, and then also the marriage side, that the whole thing of learning to trust, in each other, learning to trust in God, learning to trust in your own skills, and the talents that you have, and that's sort of part of the whole thing of life where you learn, you grow, you make mistakes, you move forward, you learn to trust in your God-given instincts, talents, giftings. Um, but then there is a time again, Jesus took time to go away and pray. And so
Yeah.
we're going to be going away and doing that. And just not that we're burnt out, but it's something that if if you believe that you're sort of destined for greatness, or there are things in your life that you want to really get clear on, sometimes you just need to step back a little bit and to really press in. um what's the term, to be able to go forward, you need to go backwards, to learn. And then we're going to touch on this in a second, but it's about the basics. Really expecting, for what this week is gonna bring for, yes, my marriage, but then also how I'm going to get downloads for my business, for personal things, my family, and now I'm really expectant, and I think going away uh, to pray is definitely going to help in that, um, our marriage and all that. So, looking back, what advice would you give to your past, to little Sergio?
So little Sergio. Wow. It's kind of funny you mentioned that,
Mhm.
because one of the when I was really in my testimony, struggle with mental health, a whole bunch of suicidality, ideation, all that stuff. Oh, so then they recommended us for dudes to write letters to our younger self. And that sounded stupid to me, but it really helped.
Mm,
Really just um to tell my young myself I forgive them. Uh, but if I were to give advice for them, right, um, I would really just go or and tell them that success doesn't mean a lack of problems.
mm,
Peace doesn't mean a lack of problems.
mm,
Um, I'm gonna be honest, I believe that there's this idea that almost the way we see like TV shows, right? There's this villain and then you defeat him and once and for all the villain never comes back. The Bible really only speaks of one once and for all, and that's when the battle of Armageddon, when the Lord defeats the enemy literally once and for all, right? But the Bible also says crucify your flesh every day.
Mm,
That's a daily thing. The same villains that you fight with today, even when you beat them today, they'll come back tomorrow. There's this, I don't believe, I think I'd have to tell myself once and for all is a fairy tale.
mm,
I think it's happily ever after. That's a fairy tale.
mhm.
Happily ever after is one of the worst things ever written for relationships. It makes it feel like, yo, you succeeded. You'll never have to put word into it again. It's not true.
Right. Mhm,
No. And once and for all, that's also a phrase that I believe was crafted by the enemy. You'll never conquer your temptation or your sin once and for all. You'll never conquer problems once and for all. There's always going to be something new to come up. There's always going to be these things trying to lurk back. And I have to tell myself, don't expect a once and for all. And that's why you're getting so defeated. That's why you feel so disappointed because you're
mm,
expecting a once and for all victory when the Bible says it's a crucify your flesh daily thing.
mm,
When you have that proper expectation and you put that in like its proper place, that will allow you to shift the way you're working towards things
mhm.
to put yourself in a greater mentality and set yourself up for better success.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell my younger self. I would just tell them stop looking for a once and for all victory. Just do the work daily.
Yeah. There's also, and here in sort of a concept of, to leave room for miracles, because there are people that do have a kind of final mindset of this is how it's always gonna be.
Mhm.
And then it's sort of like the, um I'm thinking of, or it's coming to mind of the guy that was, in front of the pool of, Siloam or whatever, and then he asked
Yeah.
he asked Jesus to bring him to the pool and everything like that, and his situation was he needed someone to help him to get to the pool, but then when Jesus comes into your situation, all final situations can can change, things that you thought were that could never, happen or never will never be the end of, you get what I'm trying to say. Because there are people that were blind and they thought they'll always be blind, and then
Mhm.
they were able to see, once Jesus stepped in. But anyway, that's one little nugget. Um,
Yeah. When I said the once and for all thing, I
yeah,
wasn't. I think let me clarify that. Yes, for certain things. For example, like if you're struggling with blindness, more give you sight. Yeah,
yeah,
you're gonna keep your sight.
mhm,
But what I look for once and for all is just like looking for this season or series finale, right, of your life where every problem is solved. Now everything else from here on out is gonna be meadows, rainbows, and sun.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I was really leaving
Hmm.
towards. I had to let me clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah, all good, all good. So what's one misconception people have, about starting or running a business?
Ooh, I think there's a name for this book. I think it's called the E Myth, but it's the idea that you're your own boss.
Mm,
In fact, when you are an entrepreneur, when you're a founder, you have a boss.
mm,
The name of that boss is the most demanding boss you'll ever find.
mm,
The most annoying, sometimes, the most ever changing boss, and that is the market,
mm,
the customers.
mhm,
If you're, for example, if you're a construction company and your client wants you to fix a roof, you can't just walk in and gut their house and remodel their interior.
mhm.
That's not what they paid.
Yeah.
That's not what the market, that's not what the clients are demanding. You need to do this. So the idea of I'll be my own boss and I'll do everything the way I want to, that's a myth.
Mm,
You have to submit to what the market wants. You have to submit to what the customers want, or else you don't have a business.
mhm,
They're not gonna pay you. Like, why would I pay you as a customer to do something I didn't ask? I
mm.
didn't pay you to just imagine if you went to a restaurant, every single restaurant you went to was just, give me whatever. Like, what? No, they served you what you asked for. If I ask for a burger, I'm gonna be mad if you bring me a steak.
Mhm.
It could be the best steak on earth, but it's not what I ordered.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to drop this idea of I'm gonna be my own boss.
Mhm.
Like I understand where it comes from, like, yeah, the decisions really come to you, all that, but you're always gonna be answering to somebody.
Mhm.
And you don't go ever go away from them.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to stick in the, unless you're the government, like with
Yeah, right.
because they unfortunately, they do whatever they want, but then they could also get voted out. So that's
Yeah, and then even if you're a monarchy,
yeah.
or even then, you're whatever you want. Eventually, someone's gonna come to kill you.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Um, and how has this, journey changed who you are as a person? How, all these ups and downs, these failures, these successes, these growths and, setbacks and, burnout and all this stuff. How has it changed you to, the beginning stages of starting the businesses to who you are right now and as an author? I know you're gonna talk about your book in a second. And so how's that for you?
It's forced me to switch from the victim to victor mentality.
Mm,
The victim mentality says, "Oh, this is everything that I've gone through. This is everything that these are all the hard things. Oh my God, I need help. I can't do this. Like I need all this, right? When you're going through this business, I've had to really remind myself what the Bible says. The Bible says, you are more than a conqueror.
mhm,
Um, and it's so easy, right? Like at any moment, any entrepreneur can really just say, "Oh my God, this is so hard. This is so blah blah blah." Um, or you can choose to just overcome it.
mhm,
You can choose to, gird. The Bible says in Ephesians, the armor of God, the belt of truth. Another translation is gird yourself, to gird your loins with it. You just pick up your pants and go and do it. Go and do what God's telling you to do. Um, and I think that one of the biggest ways that this has made me change is that life will always be difficult. There's two hard you can choose from. You can either choose the hard of being a loser or the hard of being a winner, but both are hard.
mhm,
It's hard to be broke and it's hard to be rich.
mhm,
And it's hard to be not saved and it's hard to be saved.
mhm,
There's no escape of difficulty. You just choose which one you want. And I'm saying I choose to be a victor. I choose to be the one that's obedient to God when everything else is difficult.
mhm,
So I've been learning to really ignore the pain. Like, okay, it burns, it hurts, whatever.
mhm,
You know what also burns and hurts? Not meeting. You know what also burns and hurts? If I were to get divorced or not even get married,
mhm.
because I failed.
Well,
You know what I mean?
mhm,
So let me just bite the bullet. Let me just do what God's telling me to do and stop complaining.
mhm,
Complaining is agreeing with the enemy's perspective, and I
mhm,
don't like that. Let me stop agreeing with the enemy's perspective. Let me agree with God's perspective
mhm,
and keep pushing forward. So that's how this business has really changed me.
yeah. And then one verse that comes to mind when Jesus, he promised, "In this world, you will have trouble, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world." And it's like, mm, sort of recognizing that the troubles that we have in life are guaranteed. And it's a guarantee you're gonna have trouble, but to the silver lining is that it's already, you know, I have found the way, like Jesus saying, he is the way, he's the door. You just walk in him and uh, through his promises, the good promises, and to find that life for yourself. And so closing thoughts. Uh, so what's next for you, Sergio? What's going on in your life that you're excited for these days?
Next, dude, we're hiring. That's about it. Hiring sales reps.
Mhm,
Uh, we actually just closed. I had to just close the job posting because
mm,
that's too many people to.
awesome. Good problem.
But I have to. That happened like probably like a week and a half ago. I have to really sit down. I've been so
Mhm,
busy working in the business. I need to actually look through these applicants and really do the interviews.
mhm,
Um, And then also, uh, I'm not you said it's gonna be audio mainly, but I have the book here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And if you would just see it.
so okay, cool. Yeah, so this is the book. This is my copy. It says not for resale. This is just my author approved copy. So the book, it really talks about my triumphant testimony as a suicidal schizophrenic.
Mm,
Um, and I had a hard time releasing the book, even writing the book, because it felt like I was just gonna release a sob story.
mm,
But I'm like, no, there's so many people that do you struggle with impossible things. Schizophrenia is said to be incurable.
mm,
Schizophrenia is said to be if you have it, that's it, you're done.
mm,
You're gonna deal with it the rest of your life.
mm,
Um, Statistically speaking, I'm a big statistics guy. My girl says, "You need to stop looking at numbers."
mm,
And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I like numbers, okay?"
mm,
The statistic probability of someone diagnosed with this illness that I've had to be happy, get a job, and be married,
mm.
less than a 0.03% chance.
Wow. Yeah.
And the Lord is doing that,
Yeah.
you know? And if I know God has many titles, but if you were to put God on Indeed, I swear his title would be the impossible doer.
Mhm,
That's just what he does. He just
mhm.
works. That's where God does his magic. Well, sorry, I don't know. Let's use the word lightning. That's where he uses his miracles. Like I struck by lightning. I'm sorry, I didn't do magic. But um, yeah. So that's just why I write the book.
Yeah.
That's why I'm gonna be really talking about the book a lot, referring back to it in a lot of feature episodes on my own podcast and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I really just want people to see that God still does miracles.
Yeah.
He still does the impossible. At
You're here.
church sometimes, we at church will have vertical or other, believing churches that still believe in the movement of the Holy Spirit. It's so common to us. We see it all the time. But even within the church and obviously the world at large, they don't see that God does miracles.
Mm,
So I think we need to. I think I have that duty to show the world that no, God still does. God still does the impossible.
yeah. And for those that
What's next for me?
are listening, what's the name of the book and like
Oh, yeah, so the name of the book is Madman, by Sergio Bran Jr. They can find it on Amazon and on Apple Books as an ebook.
right? Awesome. Any words for someone listening who just uh start again. Any words for for someone listening who's just about to start their own journey? Like any words of advice or something to tell them?
Ooh, count the cost.
Mm,
And I don't just mean financial.
mhm,
Count your strengths, your weaknesses, the relational equity it's gonna take out. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a relationship or if you have a family, count the cost in that. Like it's gonna take you a lot of hours, especially the beginning of any business. It's a lot of time. How
mhm,
is that gonna affect your family? Is that a price you're willing to pay? Is that a price you can talk with them about and you guys can really sort that out? Um, Honestly, when it comes to counting the cost of starting an entrepreneurial journey, the financial cost tends to be one of the easiest ones to count because even if you can't pay it all up, there's a lot of ways to fund. You can get there's so many grants, so many ways to get funding. Um, but the real cost comes in taking inventory of your own character, of your own relationships, of your own time with God,
mhm.
of your own energy. Like, are you willing to stay up till 3 a.m. for some nights? You know what I mean? So,
Like I did last night. This morning.
or yeah, well, yeah, take inventory. That's
Mm,
what I would say. That's my number one advice. Take inventory, and after you've accounted for everything, and then you still like, I can do this, then go ahead.
yeah, it's awesome. So, Sergio, where can people connect with you or support your work?
Yeah. So, for the book, you can just follow either me or the book's Instagram. So my Instagram is Sergio Ebran, just Sergio Brand Jr. on Instagram, and the book on Instagram is Madman Book. Pretty simple. And as for the business side, you need help with marketing, you need help with these digital strategies. It's www.scepter, SCEPTOR .ai.
we're right now, we're just about to finish doing a remodel of the website. So
Mhm.
if you go on and you see this little landing thing, like just a text, don't worry, it should be going live tonight or tomorrow.
Beautiful. And it's been recorded, earlier than it's gonna be posted, but,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
So it should be
Yeah.
up by then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it should be up by then. Sergio, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Any final I feel like, so typically I would do, like, a closing, talk, but I'm gonna let you do this one, Pastor Sergio. What would you how would you close out, this podcast?
Yeah, so, first off, I wanna give honor to honors due. Thank you, Johnny, just 'cause it's an honor to be on your platform. You know, I don't take it lightly. Mind you, I should've probably texted everyone, "Don't call me." I thought just putting not disturb would've worked.
Sergio,
But
then I can see this.
okay, cool. Um, but what I do wanna say to close out, let me just take some time to just kinda listen to the Lord, see what he has for me to say. I kinda get the feeling that there's gonna be either someone or some people listening to this that are really in that waver and take the leap of faith that God wants me to do. And I feel that some people, having taken the advice that I just said, take inventory. I feel to say to these people, also don't forget to take inventory the God that's on your side. Don't forget to count his goodness and his words. Um, I also want to encourage people learn what it means to build proper faith, not just wishful thinking.
Mm,
Because there's gonna be a time, right? And this even might be the time now where God is asking you to do something that might not make sense,
mm,
where people around you are not going to get it or agree with it. Um, but you're like, well, I feel like there's someone here who's might be in that moment, but they might be saying, but I'm not used to taking big faith leaps. Um, and this is some advice I gave on literally an episode I had, crazy faith versus wishful thinking. Um, Pray to God to give you smaller things to have faith in. Be it, God, today, do you want me to, I don't know, do you want me to go to the store and tell someone about the gospel? Ask God to build your faith in much smaller ways. So that way, when the time comes to make the decision to make the leap, you have some memories, you remembered it in your mind. God just backed me in this. I know he'll back me for that.
mm.
So that's how I want to close it is God, take inventory of the God you on your side as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sergio, for being part of the podcast. And we're gonna put all of this info in the show notes below. Uh, Thanks for watching, listening, wherever you're taking this in. Until next time, take care. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.